been just over 3 weeks since the Senate Nominations Committee met, and Senators Rabin and Tucker outlined a straightforward, transparent, fair process to exercise the Senate's constitutional authority to confirm Governor Cooper's cabinet secretaries. On that day, Senator Rabin told reporters, "I expect the governor to appoint people who share his ideology. I should hope all of these would be confirmed." Frankly, this should not be a big deal. Senate confirmation of cabinet appointees has long been standard practice in Washington and many states for as long as we can remember. And we didn't hear members of Governor Cooper's party decrying the confirmation of President Trump's cabinet secretaries as a, quote, sham. Quite the contrary. This process is something that our citizens and members of the press should support as well. Transparency in government is a good thing. Giving the people of this state an opportunity to learn about unelected department heads who will control billions of their tax dollars is not something anyone should be fighting. Nor should it be controversial that public officials must, like everyone else, follow the law. It is mind-boggling that this is even considered controversial and that the governor is fighting back so hard. 3 weeks ago, Senator Rabin explained that the Senate intends to focus on ensuring the candidates are capable and qualified, without conflicts of interest, and willing to follow the law. It appears from a cursory review of what is in the public domain that the governor's secretaries are generally qualified in their respective fields. But in the past few weeks, we've seen multiple news reports of potential conflicts of interest with a number of the governor's secretaries. I've got copies of some of those stories. Many of you have written on that. In fact, just this week, Bill O'Neill at WXII ran a news report on potential conflicts with the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, who controls a roughly $20 billion budget. And we've seen similar reports about other secretaries. Are those potential deal breakers? Not necessarily. But we believe the people of this state deserve an opportunity to hear how these secretaries will address the concerns that were raised by the State Ethics Commission. And given what's happened with the first nominee repeatedly failing to appear at his own confirmation hearing, we're starting to develop a real concern about whether the governor's secretaries are willing or will be allowed by the governor to follow the law. For whatever reason, the governor has turned this into one of the biggest political fights of the year. Makes us wonder, what on earth are they hiding? Now, there's been a lot of discussion on whether Governor Cooper's secretaries have been formally nominated. But let's review the pattern of what happened with all of his nominees, and I'll use Secretary Larry Hall as an example. January the 13th, Governor Cooper names Representative Hall as Secretary of the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs. January 16, Representative Hall resigns from the General Assembly saying, and I quote, "I am fortunate to have been appointed to be State Secretary of Military and Veterans Affairs by the Honorable Roy Cooper, 75th Governor of North Carolina." Representative Hall, now Secretary Hall, took an oath of office and has been serving in that capacity ever since. A February 9th story in the Raleigh News and Observer reported that Secretary Hall will earn a taxpayer-funded annual salary of $130,935. Earlier this week, Secretary Hall attended a meeting of the North Carolina Military Affairs Commission as its secretary, and the department's website lists Secretary Hall as the department's secretary. So as Senator Meredith said yesterday, it's hard to see how anyone could argue with a straight face that he has not yet been nominated or appointed. Because he is a former legislative colleague and because we believe he respects this institution, we have bent over backwards to be patient with Secretary Hall. That's why we'll be giving him one more opportunity at 1 o'clock today to come back before the Senate Commerce Committee, follow the law, and answer questions about his qualifications and background. We expect him to show up this time, but if he doesn't, I expect members of the committee will move to issue a subpoena and compel his participation. Believe me, that is not how we want this to go, but that's up to Governor Cooper and Secretary Hall. Secretary Hall has taken this oath of office, and I'm going to read the oath in its entirety. I do solemnly and sincerely swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina and to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established for the government thereof, and that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God. He will be bound to uphold that oath and comply with the subpoena. Even if the governor acts like Richard Nixon and orders him to break the law. Now, I know the governor will try to divert attention from his failure to follow the law by repeating the same old line that we, quote, need to focus on repealing HB 2, need to raise teacher pay, need to provide Hurricane Matthew relief. But let's be clear. Republican members of the Senate have supported a $200 million hurricane relief package, raised average teacher pay to its highest level ever, and only Republican members have voted to repeal HB 2. On the contrary, Roy Cooper directed all Senate Democrats to vote against repealing HB 2, and Roy Cooper and Senate Democrats fought massive teacher pay raises every step of the way. They have no credibility on these topics, and any attempt to use those issues as a distraction from their open defiance of the law is downright laughable.